The galaxy wanted peace. Humanity brought a fleet anyway. Admiral Jinwoo Kim stood on the bridge of the ESS Defiant, watching the stars bend and twist through the viewport. His fleet had been traveling through faster-than-light space for 3 days now, heading toward coordinates provided by beings humanity had never met before. The invitation had arrived 6 months ago, delivered by a small probe that appeared in Earth's orbit without warning. The message was simple and beautiful. Voices speaking in perfect harmony, images of thousands of different species living together in peace, and an invitation to join something called the Galactic Accordance. They had been watching humanity for 300 years. The message explained, waiting patiently for Earth to develop faster-than-light travel. Now that humanity had achieved this milestone, they were ready to welcome Earth into galactic civilization. The United Earth Council had debated for months. Some wanted to send a small diplomatic ship with a handful of ambassadors. Others argued for caution. Jinwoo had argued for strength. History had taught humanity one lesson over and over: hope for peace, but prepare for war. In the end, the Council agreed to send a proper fleet. Now, 47 warships surrounded the diplomatic cruiser Harmony. 3 massive dreadnoughts formed the core of the formation, each one carrying enough firepower to level a small moon. Jinwoo knew what the aliens expected. They expected a small, peaceful vessel carrying hopeful diplomats. They were about to get something very different. "Admiral, we're approaching the exit point," Captain Minho Choi announced from the tactical station. Minho was young but sharp, and he shared Jinwoo's cautious nature. "All ships report ready status." "Good," Jinwoo replied. "Bring us out of FTL in combat formation. Shields up, weapons powered but not armed. Let's make an entrance." Dr. Haijin Park, the fleet's chief xenolinguist, looked up from her console with concern on her face. "Admiral, perhaps we should appear less aggressive? We're trying to make friends, not enemies." Jinwoo turned to her with a slight smile. "Dr. Park, we're not trying to make enemies. But we're also not going to pretend we're defenseless. If they're truly peaceful, our weapons won't matter. If they're not, we'll be very glad we brought them." The ship shuddered as it dropped out of FTL space. The viewport cleared, revealing a massive orbital station hanging in space like a jewel. It was beautiful beyond description, with crystalline structures catching the light of a nearby blue star. Thousands of ships of every imaginable design floated around it, but none of them looked like warships. They were smooth, elegant, designed for beauty rather than battle. "Sir, we're being scanned," Minho reported. "Multiple sources." "They seem confused." "Open a channel to the Harmony," Jinwoo ordered. "Ambassador Song needs to know what's happening." Ambassador Nari Song's face appeared on the screen. She was older than Jinwoo, with gray hair and kind eyes, but there was steel underneath her gentle exterior. "I see we've made quite an impression, Admiral." "That was the idea, Ambassador. You handle the diplomacy. I'll handle keeping everyone alive." Before Nari could respond, a new signal came through. The screen filled with a being unlike anything humanity had ever seen. It appeared to float in liquid light, its form constantly shifting between different states. When it spoke, the words came not as sound but as pure meaning that translated directly into their minds. "Welcome, humanity. We are the Accordance Council. We have awaited this moment for many of your lifetimes." The being paused, and Jinwoo could sense confusion in its psychic voice. "However, we did not expect this. Why do you bring weapons to a gathering of peace?" Nari stepped forward, her diplomatic training taking over. "Honored Council, we bring our strength as a sign of respect. Humanity has learned that peace must be protected. These ships are our promise that we take this meeting seriously. Weapons have not been seen in Accordance space for 800 years?" Another voice joined in, this one belonging to a massive creature with 4 arms and skin like polished stone. "We have evolved beyond such primitive tools. The Arbiters ensure peace throughout the galaxy." Dr. Haijin's fingers flew across her console, processing the translation data. She looked up at Jinwoo with worry in her eyes. "Admiral, I'm getting strange readings from the translation matrix. When they say evolved beyond weapons, there's something else there, something lost. Jinwoo nodded slowly. He'd been in enough negotiations to know when something wasn't being said. Keep analyzing, Doctor. I want to know everything about these arbiters. The diplomatic discussion continued for hours. The Accordance representatives explained their society, a coalition of 847 different species spanning 12,000 star systems. They had achieved perfect peace through the arbiters, ancient machines that prevented violence before it could occur. War was impossible. Conflict was resolved through mediation and consensus. Every species that joined the Accordance agreed to decommission their military forces and allow arbiter networks to be installed on their worlds. Aisho pulled Jinwoo aside during a break in the discussions. Sir, I've been going through the historical data they shared. Every species that joined the Accordance signed away their right to have armies or weapons. The arbiters don't just prevent wars, they prevent any violent action. Define any violent action, Jinwoo said quietly. That's the problem, sir. The definition is vague. The arbiters determine what counts as violence. Once a species agrees to the treaty, they're completely under arbiter control. Minho's expression was grim. Sir, there's something else. 43 species refused to sign the treaty. They were placed under protective custody. Their worlds are blockaded. They can't leave their home systems. Jinwoo felt a chill run down his spine. They're prisoners. They call it protection, but yes, sir, prisoners. That night, as the fleet held position near the great station, Jinwoo couldn't sleep. He walked the corridors of the Defiant, nodding to crew members on night watch. His communicator buzzed with an incoming message, but it wasn't from any of his ships. The source was unknown, the encryption pattern unlike anything in Earth's databases. He opened it in his private office. The message was brief and in perfect English. Don't sign anything. The peace is a prison. We've been waiting for someone like you. The survivors are watching. They hope you're the ones who will finally remember how to fight. The message deleted itself immediately after he read it. Jinwoo sat in the darkness of his office, staring at the empty screen. Somewhere in this peaceful galaxy, someone was trapped and hoping for rescue. Someone who still remembered what freedom meant. He activated his secure channel to Nari. Ambassador, we need to talk before tomorrow's council meeting. There's something very wrong with this paradise they're offering us. Outside his viewport, the beautiful station glowed with warm light, filled with species living in perfect harmony. It should have been inspiring. Instead, it felt like a warning. Humanity had fought too hard for its freedom to simply hand it over to ancient machines and promises of eternal peace. Tomorrow, they would hear the full offer. Tomorrow, they would have to decide humanity's future. But tonight, Jinwoo made his own decision. Whatever else happened, Earth's fleet wasn't giving up its weapons. Not until they knew the full truth about the arbiters and the price of the Accordance's peace. The galaxy wanted peace. Humanity brought a fleet anyway. The interior of Accord Prime was unlike anything humanity had imagined. Ambassador Nari walked through corridors that seemed to grow organically from living crystal, past gardens that floated in carefully controlled gravity fields, and through halls filled with beings from across the galaxy. Every species was different. Some walked on 2 legs, others on 6 or 8. Some flew through the air on wings of light. Others moved through the space like living water. What struck Nari most was not the diversity but the peace. There were no guards, no security checkpoints, no locked doors. Children of a dozen species played together in a central garden while their parents watched without worry. No one carried weapons. No one even seemed to think about danger. Dr. Haijin walked beside her, recording everything with wide eyes. It's beautiful, she whispered. All these different species and no conflict at all. It is beautiful, Nari agreed, but I keep wondering what it costs. They were escorted to the Grand Council chamber by Councillor Taran, the four-armed being who had spoken to them the day before. He moved with the confidence of someone who had lived for centuries, his polished stone skin reflecting the soft light of the chamber. Your arrival has caused quite a discussion among the council, Taran said, his voice kind but curious. Many members have never seen military vessels before. Some of the younger species don't even have words for warship in their languages anymore. How long have you been part of the Accordance? Nari asked. My people joined 200 years ago, Terran replied. Before that, we had wars. Terrible wars. We nearly destroyed our own world with weapons you cannot imagine. He paused, and something sad flickered across his face. The Accordance saved us from ourselves. Haijin caught the subtle change in his expression. But something was lost? Terran was quiet for a moment. We no longer write war stories. We no longer compose battle hymns. We no longer have warriors or soldiers. Some say we lost the worst parts of ourselves. Others say we lost something essential. He looked at them directly. What do you think? The four. Either could answer. They entered the Grand Council chamber. It was a vast space that seemed to have no walls, just an endless view of stars and nebulae. Hundreds of beings sat in a great circle, representing civilizations from across the galaxy. The chamber fell silent as the human delegation entered. Nari stepped forward to the center of the circle. She had prepared a speech, carefully crafted over months, but looking at all these peaceful faces, she decided to speak from her heart instead. Honored Council, I come before you today representing humanity. We are young compared to most of you. Our history is filled with conflicts and wars. We have done terrible things to each other. We have built weapons that could destroy our entire world. She paused, letting them absorb this. But we have also built peace. Not through removing our ability to fight, but through choosing not to. We believe real peace is not the absence of weapons, but the choice not to use them. A wave of whispers moved through the chamber. One counselor, a being made of what looked like living glass, spoke up. You are the last barbarians of the galaxy. Your history is written in blood? How can we trust you to join our peaceful civilization? Another added, the arbiters would cleanse these violent tendencies. You could become like us, free from the burden of aggression? Nari felt her spine stiffen. We don't see our history as a burden, we see it as a lesson. We learned the hard way that freedom must be protected, that peace must be chosen every day, that the ability to fight doesn't mean you must fight. Meanwhile, back on the fleet, Intelligence Officer Yuna Lee had spent the night hacking into the Accordance's public databases. She wasn't looking for military secrets. She was looking for history. What she found made her blood run cold. Commander Doyun, you need to see this, she said. Pulling up files on her screen. Commander Doyun Han was a career Marine, built like a tank and just as tough. He looked at the data Yuna had found and frowned. What am I looking at? Records of the 43 species that refused to join the Accordance, Yuna explained. They're not just blockaded, their populations are declining. Slowly, over generations, they're dying out. Why? I don't know. The official records say it's because they're disconnected from galactic progress, but that's nonsense. She pulled up more data, and there's this. Before joining, many species had populations in the billions. After joining, their numbers stabilize or even decline slightly. It's like something is suppressing their growth. Doyan leaned back, processing this information, the arbiters. That's my guess, but I need more data to be sure. Yuna pulled up another file. There's something else. The arbiters aren't just machines floating in space. They're everywhere. In the air, in the water, microscopic particles that monitor everything. One of our Marines had a bad dream last night, a nightmare about combat. When he woke up, he couldn't move his arms for 3 hours. You're saying the arbiters are already here? On our ships? They arrived when we did. They're in the atmosphere of this station? They're probably inside all of us right now. Yuna's voice dropped to a whisper. Commander, they can read our thoughts. They can control our bodies. If we sign that treaty, we'll be prisoners in our own minds. Back in the council chamber, Dr. Haijin was having a private conversation with Counselor Terran during a recess. She had built a rapport with the old being, and he seemed willing to share things he wouldn't say in public. Your people had warriors once, Haijin said gently. What happened to them? Terran's expression grew distant. We had a warrior class, yes, brave souls who defended our world. When we joined the Accordance, they were the hardest to convince. They said they would rather die than give up their purpose. He was quiet for a long moment. So they did. The arbiters classified their warrior mindset as a violent tendency. Within a generation, no child was born with the warrior spirit. The old warriors lived out their lives in peace, but they were like ghosts. Empty, purposeless. That's horrible, Hyjin breathed. Is it? Terran asked. We haven't had a war in 200 years. No one dies in violence, no one suffers from aggression. But sometimes I wonder if we traded our soul for safety. He looked at her directly. Your people still have warriors, they still have that fire. If you join us, that fire will be extinguished. The arbiters will make sure of it. That evening, the human delegation gathered in the Harmony to discuss what they had learned. Nari, Hyjin, Yuna, and Doyun shared their findings while Admiral Jinwoo listened carefully. So we have a choice, Jinwoo said finally. Sign the treaty and gain access to incredible technology and knowledge, but lose our ability to defend ourselves and possibly our very nature as humans. Or refuse and be marked as outsiders, maybe even enemies. There's a third option, Minho said from the doorway. He had been running sensor sweeps of the Accordance territory. I've detected something strange. At the very edge of their space there are signals, old signals using ancient codes. Someone is trying to reach us. Jinwoo stood up. The survivors from the message? Possibly. They're calling themselves the Remnant. They want to meet with us, but we'd have to go to the edge of Accordance space to do it. Nari shook her head. That would be seen as a hostile act. The Council is already suspicious of us. They're suspicious because we brought weapons to a peace conference, Hyjin pointed out. Maybe it's time we start acting like the barbarians they think we are? Go meet these Remnant, learn the truth, then make our decision? Jinwoo looked at each of them in turn. These were good people, smart people, and they were all telling him the same thing. Trust his instincts. Trust the message from the unknown sender. Trust that humanity's caution was justified. All right, he said finally. Minho, plot a course to those coordinates. Ambassador Song, buy us time with the Council. Tell them we need a few days to consult with Earth before making such an important decision. Dr. Park, keep gathering information about the arbiters. Yuna, find out everything you can about what happens to species that decline the treaty. As they dispersed to their tasks, Jinwoo returned to his office and opened a secure channel to Earth. He needed to report what they had found, but as he began to record his message, his computer screen flickered. A new message appeared, this time with a signature, the witness, Admiral Jinwoo Kim of Earth. You are correct to be cautious. The peace you see is real, but it comes at a price your species may not wish to pay. The arbiters were created to end all war, but their creators are returning. And when they arrive, they will harvest a galaxy that has forgotten how to fight. Meet with the Remnant, learn the truth. You may be our last hope. The message deleted itself, but Jinwoo had already made his decision. Whatever this paradise was, whatever secrets it held, humanity needed to know the truth before signing away their freedom. The fleet would go to meet the Remnant, and if the Accordance tried to stop them, well, they would learn that humanity didn't come this far just to become another docile species in their perfect, peaceful prison. The galaxy wanted peace. Humanity brought a fleet anyway. The journey to the edge of Accordance space took 2 days. Admiral Jinwoo kept the fleet at battle readiness the entire time, despite protests from Ambassador Nari that it would appear aggressive. He didn't care about appearances anymore. Something was very wrong with this supposedly perfect civilization, and he intended to find out what Dr. Siwo Kang, the fleet's chief physicist, had spent those 2 days studying every piece of data they had collected about the arbiters. What he discovered disturbed him more than he wanted to admit. Admiral, the arbiters aren't just preventing violence, Siwo explained, displaying molecular scans on the main screen. They're actively suppressing neurological pathways associated with aggression. When someone under arbiter influence even thinks about violence, the machines release chemicals that block those thoughts before they fully form. That's mind control, Minho said from the tactical station. It's more subtle than that, Siwo continued. Over generations, species adapt to the arbiter influence. Their brains physically change. Children are born without the capacity for aggressive thoughts. It's not control, it's genetic engineering through environmental pressure. Jinwoo felt his hands clench into fists. They're breeding the fight out of entire species. Yes, sir. And once it's gone, it can't come back. The change becomes permanent. At that moment, pilot Minji-Oh called from her scout ship, which was running ahead of the main fleet. Admiral, you're going to want to see this. The main screen shifted to show Minji's sensor readings. At the very edge of accordance space, where the sensors said there should be empty void, something massive was hidden. Entire star systems with their signals dampened, invisible to anyone who wasn't looking specifically for them. What am I looking at? Jinwoo asked. Quarantine zones, sir. 43 of them. Each one contains a species that refused to join the accordance. Minji's voice was tight with controlled anger. They're not allowed to leave. Not allowed to communicate with the outside galaxy. The Arbiters blockade them completely. Take us to the nearest one, Jinwoo ordered. Slowly. I want to know what we're walking into. The quarantine zone around the Remnant's homeworld was marked by a thin line of Arbiter satellites, each one monitoring everything that happened below. As the human fleet approached, those satellites activated, projecting a simple message into the minds of everyone on the ships. Warning, this species has rejected the path of peace. Contact is forbidden. Turn back or face containment. That's not a suggestion, Minho noted. That's a threat. Noted, Jinwoo replied. Continue forward. Shields to maximum. If those satellites try to stop us, destroy them. The satellites didn't attack. Instead, they simply watched as the human fleet pushed through the barrier. It was almost disappointing until Yuna realized why. Sir, the Arbiters are letting us through because we haven't signed the treaty yet. We're not bound by their rules. They can't stop us legally. Good, Jinwoo said. Let's use that advantage while we still have it. The Remnant's homeworld appeared on their screens. It was beautiful in a wild way, with storms swirling across purple oceans and massive forests covering entire continents. But there were no cities visible from space, no satellite networks, no signs of advanced civilization. This doesn't make sense, Dr. Haijin said, studying the data. The records say this species had technology comparable to the Accordance. Where is it all? A signal came through from the surface, audio only, speaking in broken but understandable English. Human ships, welcome. We knew you would come. Land your shuttle at these coordinates. We must speak quickly. Time is running out. Against the advice of his security team, Jinwoo insisted on leading the landing party himself. He took Minho, Haijin, Yuna, and Commander Doyeon with him. If this was a trap, he wanted his best people with him. They landed in a clearing surrounded by massive trees. The shuttle's sensors detected life forms approaching, but no weapons. When the remnant emerged from the forest, the humans understood immediately why there were no cities visible from space. These beings had once been like the other, Accordance species, tall and elegant with technology woven into their very bodies. But that was gone now. They wore simple clothes made from plant fibers. Their technology had been stripped away, leaving them with only the most basic tools. They looked like refugees from a war that had never happened. Their leader called himself Kiro. He was old, his skin marked with scars that the Arbiters had clearly not prevented. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of centuries of isolation. You brought weapons to the Accordance, Kirill said. It wasn't a question. Good, that means you're still thinking clearly. The Arbiters haven't dulled your minds yet. What happened to your people? Haijin asked gently. We said no, Kirill replied simply. The Accordance came to us 900 years ago, just like they came to you. They showed us their perfect peace, their eternal harmony. They asked us to give up our weapons, our armies, our ability to defend ourselves. We refused, so they imprisoned you here, Jinwoo stated. Not immediately. First they tried to convince us. They showed us what happened to violent species, how they destroyed themselves. They promised us safety, prosperity, knowledge. But we saw the truth. We saw what the Arbiters did to species that joined. We watched as proud warrior cultures became docile and tame. We saw entire civilizations forget how to fight, how to struggle, how to strive. Kirill led them deeper into the forest, where hidden beneath the trees was a cave system. Inside, the humans saw technology that took their breath away. Ancient computers still running, historical databases, and most shocking of all, weapons. Thousands of them, carefully preserved and hidden from the Arbiters above. We knew they would quarantine us if we refused, Carol continued. So we prepared? We hid our knowledge, our technology, our weapons. We taught every generation to remember. We've been waiting 900 years for someone like you to arrive. Yuna was already at one of the computer terminals, her eyes wide as she downloaded data. Admiral, this is incredible. They have complete histories of 42 other remnant species, all with the same story. And there's something else. Records of something called the Harvesters. Who are the Harvesters? Jinwoo asked. Kirill's expression darkened. The creators of the Arbiters. The ones who built that perfect peace. They come every 900 years to harvest the species they've domesticated. The cave fell silent except for the humming of ancient machines. Hejin was the first to speak. You're saying the Accordance is a farm? More like a garden? Kirill corrected. The Harvesters are an ancient race from another galaxy. They fled their dying home millions of years ago and discovered that advanced organic species make excellent resources. But species that can fight back are dangerous. So they created the Arbiters to make civilizations docile. Minho pulled up star charts on his portable console. Every 900 years. The Accordance was formed 820 years ago. That means the Harvesters are coming back soon, Kirill finished. Perhaps they're already here. We've detected strange signals from the outer regions. Whole star systems going dark. The Accordance Council thinks it's natural phenomena, but we know better. Commander Doyun, who had been quiet until now, asked a question everyone was thinking. Why haven't you warned the Accordance? We've tried, Kirill said bitterly. For 900 years we've sent messages, tried to communicate the danger. The Arbiters block everything we send. And even if we could get through, would they believe us? They've forgotten what enemies look like. They've forgotten how to be afraid. Cryptographer Seojin Park, who had stayed on the shuttle to monitor communications, burst into the cave. Admiral! I've been breaking the encryption on those old signals Minji detected. They're not random. They're warnings. Dozens of extinct civilizations left messages before the Harvesters came for them. He pulled up translated text on a datapad, message after message, all saying the same thing in different languages. They made us weak. They made us helpless. Fight while you still can. Jinwoo read through the warnings, feeling a cold certainty settle in his chest. This was why humanity had felt compelled to bring a fleet. Some deep instinct, some survival urge that evolution had burned into them over millions of years had told them that perfect peace was too good to be true. How many Harvesters are there? He asked Kirill. Unknown. But if history is accurate, dozens of ships, each one capable of consuming entire worlds. They use technology we cannot comprehend. The last time they came, the remnant species fought them. We lost 90% of our population, but we survived. We're still here, and the species that joined the Accordance? Kirill's silence was answer enough. A communication came through from the Defiant. It was Ambassador Nari, and she sounded scared. Admiral, the Accordance Council has issued an ultimatum. We have 48 hours to sign the treaty or leave their space permanently. They're saying our presence is destabilizing their peace. Jinwoo looked at the weapons stored in the cave, at the determination in Kirill's eyes, at the fear and resolve in his own crew's faces. Tell them we need time to consider. Tell them whatever you need to. But buy us 2 days? What are you planning? Nari asked. The galaxy wanted peace. Humanity brought a fleet anyway. The Accordance Council chamber erupted into chaos. On every screen, the same image played, a massive ship emerging from the darkness of space, its hull covered in what looked like organic growth mixed with ancient metal. It dwarfed even the largest accordance vessels, and sensors couldn't properly measure its full size. Counselor Taran stood frozen, his forearms trembling. This cannot be. The warnings speak of such things, but they are myths. Ancient stories to frighten children. Those myths are real, Admiral Jinwoo said, standing in the center of the council chamber. He had brought his full command staff, and none of them wore diplomatic smiles anymore. They're called harvesters. They created your arbiters. They created your peace. And now they've come to collect. The chamber filled with denials, with confusion, with fear that most of these species hadn't felt in centuries. The telepathic beings who guided the accordants tried to use their mental powers to calm everyone, but it wasn't working. Deep in their genetic memory, prey animals remembered what it felt like to be hunted. Ambassador Nari stepped forward, her voice cutting through the noise. The question isn't whether this is real. Your sensors confirm it's real. The question is what you're going to do about it. A counselor made of living crystal spoke, its voice like wind chimes. We will contact them. We will negotiate. We have achieved peace with every species we've encountered. We will achieve peace with these harvesters as well. You can try, Minho said from his position near the door. But while you're talking, they'll be moving toward your core worlds. Our long-range sensors show more ships entering the galaxy. Dozens of them. Another counselor, this one from a species that resembled floating jellyfish, asked the question they were all thinking. What do you suggest, humans? You who came with weapons to a peace gathering? Admiral Jinwoo took a deep breath. This was the moment that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. We suggest you let us do what we do best. Let us fight. We have no military. Someone shouted. The arbiters prevent violence. Then turn off the arbiters, Jinwoo replied simply. Or at least give us permission to ignore them. Our ships, our weapons aren't bound by your rules yet. Let us engage the harvesters. Let us buy you time to evacuate your worlds. The council descended into argument. Some species were horrified at the idea of violence, even against an existential threat. Others were desperate enough to consider it. And a few, like Taran, looked at the humans with something like hope. While the council debated, Commander Doyun was in communication with the remnant. Kirill and his people had been monitoring the situation, and they had a proposal. We've been preparing for this day for 900 years, Kirill said over the encrypted channel. We can provide intelligence on harvester tactics on their weaknesses. The last time they came, we learned how they fight. They're powerful, but they're also arrogant. They expect no resistance. Dr. Yunji Lim, the fleet's biologist, had been analyzing the harvester ship's biosignatures. They're organic machine hybrids, she explained to Jinwoo. They reproduce by consuming other advanced species. They literally eat civilizations and use the genetic material to create more of themselves. That's horrifying, Haijin said. That's efficient, Jinwoo corrected grimly. They've turned survival into a science. No wonder they created a system to make their prey docile. Fleet Admiral Taeyang Kwan's face appeared on the communication screen. He was still 2 days out with Earth's Second Fleet, but he'd been monitoring the situation. Jinwoo, I've got authorization from Earth. If you engage the harvesters, we'll back your play. We're coming in hot with 127 ships. That's not enough, Minho calculated quickly. If there are dozens of harvester ships, then we fight smarter, not harder, Jinwoo interrupted. We have one advantage. They don't know how humans fight because humans are new. Every other species they've faced either joined the accordants and forgot how to be warriors, or stayed isolated like the remnant and never developed space combat tactics. Engineer Hanashin was already working on weapon modifications. Sir, I can convert our cargo ships into missile platforms. The accordance has manufacturing facilities all over this sector. If they give us access, I can weaponize commercial vessels. Not well, but enough to be dangerous. The decision came suddenly. Counselor Taran, using his authority as one of the eldest members, made a unilateral choice. Human Admiral, you have permission to engage the harvester vessels. The arbiters will not interfere with your forces. The rest of us will evacuate the threatened worlds. They are making a mistake, the Crystal Counselor protested. Violence will only bring more violence. We made our mistake 800 years ago, Terran replied, and there was steel in his voice that surprised everyone. When we chose safety over strength? Perhaps these humans can remind us what we've forgotten. Admiral Jinwoo didn't waste time with speeches. He opened fleet-wide communications. All ships, this is Admiral Kim, we're going to war. The enemy is larger, more advanced, and has technology we don't understand. But they've never fought humans before, and that's going to be their biggest mistake. Tactical Plan Echo, hit them hard, hit them fast, and make them remember why peace is a choice, not a given. The human fleet moved into position. 3 dreadnoughts formed the center, with the destroyers and frigates spreading out in attack wings. Behind them, Accordance cargo ships hastily fitted with human weapons. Systems prepared to provide supporting fire. The first harvester ship didn't even acknowledge their presence. It simply continued its course toward the nearest inhabited world, a garden planet home to 12 billion peaceful beings. They're ignoring us, Minho reported. Their shields are up, but they don't consider us a threat. Then let's educate them, Jinwoo ordered. All ships, fire at will. The battle began with a coordinated strike that would have made Earth's ancient naval commanders proud. Nuclear missiles launched from the dreadnoughts, followed by railgun rounds moving at significant fractions of light speed. Laser batteries from the smaller ships created a web of energy that converged on a single point in the harvester's shields. The harvester ship's shields held, but they flickered. The ship slowed, turning its attention to the human fleet for the first time. When it returned fire, the weapons it used were beyond anything in Earth's experience. Reality itself seemed to bend around the energy beams it projected. The destroyer ESS Relentless took a direct hit. Its shields collapsed instantly, and half the ship simply ceased to exist. 200 crew members died before they knew what happened. Evasive maneuvers, Minho ordered. Don't let them target lock. The human ships scattered, using tactics developed in naval warfare on Earth's oceans centuries ago. They moved unpredictably, making targeting difficult. They used the debris field from the Relentless as cover. They coordinated their attack so that the harvester couldn't focus on any single ship. Captain Minho led a strike group on what he called a suicide run that was actually a carefully calculated maneuver. 5 destroyers charged directly at the harvester ship, drawing its fire, while 3 more ships came from below and launched a full barrage at what Dr. Yunji had identified as a potential weak point. Where the organic and mechanical parts of the ship met, the barrage punched through. Not deeply, but enough. Green fluid leaked into space, and the harvester ship's movements became less coordinated. It's working, Yuna called out. They're not used to prey that fights back. Commander Doyun had an even crazier idea. Sir, request permission to board a harvester ship? Jinwoo asked. With what troops? Marines, sir. The harvesters won't expect it. They're used to fighting at long range because no species in the Accordance has infantry tactics anymore. Let me take a team inside that thing and cause some real damage. It was insane. It was also exactly the kind of unexpected move that might work. Jinwoo approved it. Doyun's marine team used a damaged section of the harvester ship to enter, cutting through the hull with plasma torches. Inside, they found a nightmare landscape of organic corridors and mechanical systems growing together like a cancer. The harvesters themselves were there, massive beings that were part machine, part biology from 1,000 consumed species. The Marines used guerrilla tactics that Earth had perfected over thousands of years of ground warfare. They hit and ran. They used explosives in structural weak points. They moved through the ship like ghosts, causing chaos far beyond their numbers on the bridge of the Defiant. Jinwoo watched as the first harvester ship began to list. Its shields were failing. Its weapons were firing randomly. And for the first time in 900 years, a harvester ship was losing a battle, but the victory was expensive. Earth's fleet had lost 3 ships completely and 7 more were severely damaged. Hundreds of humans were dead. And long-range sensors showed that 46 more harvester ships were entering the galaxy. Fleet Admiral Tan's voice came over the communication channel. Jinwoo, we're still 6 hours out. Can you hold? Jinwoo looked at his battered fleet, at the determination on his crew's faces, at the Accordan species watching from their safe distance. He thought about the remnant who had survived alone for 900 years. The galaxy wanted peace. Humanity brought a fleet anyway. The battle for Accorm lasted 6 days. Earth's first fleet, battered but unbroken, held the line against wave after wave of harvester ships. When Fleet Admiral Taeyun arrived with reinforcements, the tide began to turn. But it wasn't just human ships that made the difference. It was what came after. On the 3rd day of fighting, something unexpected happened. A ship from the Accordance joined the battle. It was a cargo vessel retrofitted with human weapons by Engineer Hannah's teams, but what mattered wasn't the ship. It was the decision behind it. The ship belonged to Terran species. The crew had no training in combat. They didn't know tactics or strategy, but they knew how to follow orders, and when Admiral Jinwoo told them where to position themselves and when to fire, they did it. They weren't good at it. Their first salvo missed completely. But they tried, and that meant everything. By the 4th day, 12 Accordance ships had joined the fight. Not warships, because they had none, but converted vessels with whatever weapons humanity could mount on them. They took losses. The harvesters destroyed 5 of those ships, killing thousands of beings who had never known violence before. But for every ship that fell, 2 more joined the battle. Ambassador Nari worked tirelessly in the council chamber, coordinating the defense. She discovered something important. The Accordance species couldn't fight the way humans did, but they could support those who could. They provided manufacturing capacity. They provided medical care for wounded human marines. They provided computing power that let Earth's tactical systems coordinate hundreds of ships at once. Dr. Haijin worked with a team of Accordant scientists to solve a critical problem. The Arbiters were still active in most of the galaxy and they were preventing defensive actions. Species trying to evacuate were being stopped because the panic counted as violence. Children crying in fear triggered the Arbiters' response systems. We need to shut them down, Haijin argued to the council. Not forever, but at least during the crisis. The vote was close, but Terran's passionate speech made the difference. We chose safety over freedom 800 years ago. We believed the Arbiters would protect us. But they didn't protect us from the real threat. They made us helpless against it. I vote to shut down the Arbiter network. Let us choose our own path, even if that path includes risk. When the Arbiters shut down across the galaxy, the change was immediate and profound. For the first time in centuries, species could feel true fear without it being suppressed. They could feel anger. They could feel the desire to fight back. Some collapsed under the weight of these unfamiliar emotions. Others rose to meet them. The remnant species, freed from their quarantine, joined the fight with a vengeance. Kirill's people knew how harvesters fought because they had survived them before. They shared intelligence with the human fleet, pointing out weak points and tactical patterns that Earth sensors couldn't detect. General Yejinbei arrived with Earth's ground forces on the 5th day. While space battles raged above, the harvesters attempted to land troops on several worlds. Yejin's Marines taught a crash course in ground combat to species that had never held weapons. It wasn't pretty, but it worked well enough. One moment stood out in Yejin's memory. A species that looked like walking flowers, peaceful herbivores, who had never harmed anything, stood in a defensive line alongside human Marines. When the harvester ground forces attacked, the flower beings didn't run. They held the line. Most of them died, but they held long enough for reinforcements to arrive. They're learning, Yejin reported to Jinwoo. It's costing them dearly, but they're learning that some things are worth dying for. The turning point came when pilot Minji discovered something crucial during a deep reconnaissance mission. The harvester fleet wasn't operating independently. They were all connected to a massive command ship hiding in the outer system. It was over 1,000 kilometers long, and it was coordinating the entire invasion. It's their hive mind, Dr. Yunji explained. Take out that ship, and the rest become disorganized. They'll still be dangerous, but they'll be vulnerable. Ji-Hoon Nam, a strategic coordinator who had been tracking fleet movements for days, presented a plan. We need every ship we have. Human, accordance, remnant, everything. One coordinated strike on the command ship. It's suicide for whoever leads the assault. Then I'll lead it, Admiral Jinwoo said simply. Fleet Admiral Taeyun grabbed his arm. Jinwoo, you're too valuable. Let me take the dreadnoughts in. You coordinate from here. No, Jinwoo replied. These people followed us into war. The least I can do is lead from the front. Besides, someone needs to stay back who can reorganize the defense if we fail. That's you, Taeyun. The final assault force consisted of 20 human warships, 30 converted accordance vessels, and 15 remnant ships armed with ancient weapons they'd kept hidden for centuries. It wasn't enough to win a conventional battle against the Harvester command ship. So they didn't fight conventionally. The attack began with a feint. Half the force attacked from one side, drawing the Harvester's defenses. While that happened, Commander Doyun led another boarding action with marine teams from 3 different species. They entered through a damaged section created by earlier battles and fought their way toward the ship's organic core. Inside the command ship, they found something that changed everything. The Harvesters weren't invincible conquerors. They were refugees. The Elder Witness had been right. Their own galaxy had died, consumed by a threat even they couldn't fight. They had fled here millions of years ago and survived by harvesting other species. Doyun stood before the director, the ancient being that commanded the Harvester fleet. It was massive, a being made of biological material from 1,000 extinct species, with mechanical components older than Earth's sun. You could have asked for help, Doyun said, his weapon pointed at the creature. You could have joined the galaxy instead of farming it. The director's laugh echoed through the chamber. And would they have said yes? Would they have welcomed beings who consume other species to survive? We are monsters, human. We know what we are, but we survive. By making others weak. By building a prison and calling it peace. Doyun's finger tightened on the trigger. Your survival isn't worth the death of civilizations. Then kill me, the director challenged. Destroy this ship, you'll win this battle. But there are others of our kind, scattered across this galaxy and beyond. We will always come back. We must feed. Doyun made a decision that would define the rest of his life. Then we'll be ready. Every time you come, we'll be waiting. The galaxy isn't defenseless anymore. We've taught them to fight again. He pulled the trigger. The director died and the command ship systems began to fail. Doyun and his team barely escaped before the ship tore itself apart from internal explosions, with the command ship destroyed. The remaining Harvester vessels lost coordination. Some fled into deep space. Others were destroyed by the combined fleet. Within hours, the invasion was over. The cost was staggering. Earth's first fleet was reduced to barely 30% of its original strength. 5,000 humans had died. Tens of thousands of accordance beings who had joined the fight were dead. Entire cities on 3 worlds were destroyed, but the galaxy had survived. More importantly, it had learned to fight. 3 months later, a new treaty was signed on Accord Prime. Not a treaty of enforced peace, but a treaty of mutual defense. The accordance was reformed. Species were allowed to maintain their own defense forces. The arbiters were repurposed, not to prevent violence, but to provide communication and coordination during emergencies. Admiral Jinwoo became the first Supreme Commander of the Galactic Defense Initiative. His fleet, what was left of it, formed the core of a new multi-species military force. But it wasn't a human military forced on others. Each species contributed in their own way. Dr. Hygiene established the first multi-species military academy on Earth. Students came from across the galaxy to learn human tactical doctrine, but also to teach their own perspectives. The Academy's motto was simple: strength through unity, peace through choice. Ambassador Neri negotiated the complex politics of species learning to trust each other. Some worlds refused to participate, choosing isolation instead. Others embraced the new order eagerly. A few, like Taran's people, did something unexpected. They requested human advisors to help them rebuild their warrior traditions that had been lost. Counselor Taran himself took a human name, calling himself Iron Soul in honor of the human marines who had died defending his world. He became a fierce advocate for military preparation, often clashing with those who wanted to return to enforce peace. The remnant species, no longer quarantined, shared their preserved knowledge freely. Kirill became an honored elder, teaching new generations about the dangers of complacency. In Earth's shipyards, construction continued around the clock, not just human designs, but hybrid ships incorporating technology from dozens of species. The ships weren't just weapons. They were symbols of what the galaxy could accomplish when it chose strength over submission. A year after the battle, Fleet Admiral Taeyun completed a tour of the Outer Rim and returned to Accord Prime. He found Admiral Jinwoo on an observation deck, watching the construction of the new defense platforms.